Hey, I'm Luke, and welcome to Conquering the JavaScript Interview, where I teach you how to conquer the JavaScript interview. I guess it's kind of in the name. Well, today we're tackling a otherwise complex algorithm, this function called Anagrams. The point of it is to write a function that takes two string arguments and returns a Boolean true or false value if the two strings are anagrams or not. So an anagram is a word or phrase that has the exact same letters simply in a different order. So for example, the word players is the same thing as parsley. They're anagrams of each other. Clint Eastwood is an anagram of Old West Action, which I learned that today, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then we have vacation time is an anagram of I am not active. I think these are awesome little things here, and again, we're upping the complexity dial a little bit for this algorithm video since we now have to worry about spaces, whereas in a lot of my previous content dealing with strings, we typically didn't. We dealt with single word associations, if you will. So, make sure to check the description below for a link to my string breakdown video. That will be integral that you know that pattern, that tool in your tool belt that I always like to tell my students and have that phrase just burned into my memory since I keep saying it. That will be integral to understand how to solve this one. As a matter of fact, like I said in that video, knowing that character, string breakdown, whatever you want to call it, it does help answer far more complex questions. I might even mark this as intermediate. I'm not sure. It's actually not that bad as long as you know that pattern. So yeah, let's start diving on in and taking a look at some code to get it solved here. I know that if I'm comparing two strings for a collection of characters, that trick I showed y'all, that string breakdown, we're going to make that utility function really fast today. So we're going to say break it down now, just to continue my meme from the previous video, where we pass it a string, and its purpose is going to be to break it down and return the broken down string, or if you want to call it the char map, that'd be a much better name than what I'm calling it here, but it is what it is. So from there, we also sanitize, before we loop through it, the string itself by making sure we hit it with a to lowercase function. Now this to lowercase function returns a string, which means we can continue to chain native methods if we wanted to. So I am not great at regex, but we can actually handle this part here, and what I'm talking about is removing spaces. Because either we can write in our logic in our anagrams function to say, hey, don't count space strings as something different. So we can either have a conditional logic in our anagrams function that says ignore spaces when comparing letter counts, or we can just sanitize it and remove them down here. So like I said, I'm not terrific at regex, but we can pass call and chain on a replace all function onto the string that to lowercase replaces, and we can say replace all space strings with empty strings like that. That way they're not broken down and added to our object here. So technically you would pass regular expression patterns here. I'm sure someone in the comments will show me or tell me what I should be doing instead. But again, in an interview setting, I wouldn't trust myself to be writing forward slashes and backslashes and question marks and weird regular expressions, but I could remember to write this fairly easily, right? So there you go. So now we have to loop through the string that has been sanitized, and we simply have to say if the breakdown char key exists, then we simply increment breakdown char key by 1, like we learned in previous videos, and then otherwise we simply have to add it. And there we go. All right, and like I said at the beginning of the video, or if you've been watching this, you already know what this is, but if you just got here and you stumbled upon this video, again, check the description below to see where I do a video talking about this pattern, this function, this tool in particular here. So let's go ahead and that's it. I mean, that's what we need from this break it down now function. So what I need to do is simply break down my two strings. We'll call it break 1. We'll call break it down now and just daisy chain in string 1, copy paste. Can't do that on a whiteboard. It'd be pretty cool if you could though, right? And then we need to do a break 2. So there we have our two broken down strings. So now if there are a couple of broken down string objects, all we need to do is loop through them and just simply compare each key in position, right? So Luke, you should actually call something here. So let's do a call to anagrams. we're going to pass it players, and we're going to pass it parsley to see if these two words, I can spell, I think, are anagrams, or rather, we're going to see what these breaks look like here. So players, parsley, I can spell, yeah, okay. Let's, inside of here, I don't know why I wrapped this in a console log. Let's switch that up to making it console log, the two variables inside of there instead. Break 1 and break 2 will be the two things I want to console log out of curiosity. So now that that's all set up, let's run this sucker. I'm going to make some space over here so you can actually see what's happening. There we go. And thankfully enough, either the logs don't show it. If you did this console log in a Chrome browser window, for example, you'll see that the JavaScript engine there will actually organize, I think alphabetize your object properties, although they haven't here in my particular terminal in VS Code. But the important thing is we don't see any spaces in those char maps. So the spaces were indeed replaced to be empty, and that way my breakdown char map does not have spaces counted for there. So all we have to do is simply loop through one of the objects and compare its key and value pairs to the other. They both have a P together, that's cool. They both have an L1 together, that's awesome. They both have an A1 together, that's cool. They have ones for everything. So as long as everything has a key and value that matches up with the other object, that means they must be anagrams of each other. So it sounds like we need a loop of some kind. Now we know we can loop through objects with the for in loop. So we simply choose to loop through one of them. And as we go, we have to see if the character's value in one object, represented by, let's just pick break 1, matches, or does not match rather, because if it doesn't match, then all we have to do is automatically stop. So we're going to reverse our thinking to say, let's make sure they all match, to instead say, let's just keep going until one doesn't match. And if one doesn't match, they can't be anagrams. And otherwise, they probably are. Well, they are. They have to be. So we're going to say if it doesn't match the exact same character's value or appearances, whatever you're thinking about this, if it doesn't match the other's objects, then it cannot be an anagram because they have a different number of letters. So if this had A2 and this one had A1, those are not the same, which means this is not an anagram, and we can just completely exit out of the function in its entirety and return false right there. And we're going to give ourselves a little, let's console log. Nope. So that's not an anagram. If it completes the loop and it hasn't returned and it's gotten this far, then it's got to be an anagram because they have the same letters with the same number of appearances between the two strings. So let's check it out. I'm going to console log, yep, and nope. For the two positions there, so we actually know something's happening. We're going to save the file and run it, and we got a yup, because these are indeed two, they are anagrams. And I realized that earlier I said, look, see, no spaces. Well, I didn't actually test something with the space, did I? So let's add an arbitrary space there and take a look at it. Okay, so the space didn't break it, and so clearly my sanitize replace all is working as I expect it to. All right, so let's go try some of the other phrases out here. I'm going to try Clint Eastwood and Old West Action as my next pair of anagrams. This will be a good test. This should point out, yep. If I add so much as a singular letter into West as a typo or something like that and save the file, we get a nope. Change it to a Z, make sure it's not a character counting error. Yeah. So it only goes yep as long as they're actual anagrams of each other. And let's go ahead and do vacation time, and I am not active. Kudos to, I think it was Eric, you cheeky student out there that made me annoyed with this one time in webinar. And we got a yep. So vacation time, I am not active. Great anagram to know. Let's delete a space to confirm there's no weird test going on there. They're still anagrams of each other despite the space. And once again, let's just change a letter. We got a nope, and let's just change a letter over here to match it. So I typoed both with a C for some reason, and we still get nope. Yeah, because I changed two different letters, right? So I had to change the same letter. Let's change an A. No, let's change this E to a C, and then this E to a C. I don't know why my brain broke. There we go. Yep, that's why. The previous one was nope because I changed an M and a V both to C's. So sure, the C's match up, but nothing else did. But another count did not. So I had to change the same letter in both to a C typo to make it actually say, yeah, I'm an idiot. There you go. But yeah, that's anagrams. Again, something that would otherwise feel very complex and difficult that ends up being fairly trivial once you know this cool technique here and how to build a char map and how it can answer stuff for us. We've already seen how it answered maximum character counter, it can answer least character counter, middle average character counter, and things like that. There's a whole lot of cool things you could do by knowing this one pattern. So hopefully y'all appreciated this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check the description below to get involved with Covalence. Get in our community where I do stuff like this all the time. Otherwise, just keep watching this playlist, and hopefully y'all learn you something. Learn you something out there. That was a terrible exit. Okay, bye.